Hi, everyone. Welcome to the College to Calling Summit. My name is Miko Lau, and the reason why I gathered together over 20 plus amazing experts to do this online interview series is because when I first came out of college 2 years ago, I wish I had something like this where I can tap into the inspiration, guidance, and tips and strategies from people who have walked down the path and created this amazing life for themselves, doing what they love and really get some ideas from these people. So right now we have these resources here available for you guys. So, and today I'm really excited to be interviewing a very special guest. Her name is Lisa Natoli. Lisa is a teacher of A Course in Miracles, and she's also a psychotherapist, a minister, founder of the Healing Cure, and she's also a creator of the free 40-day program for transformation that is really devoted to help people heal themselves and others and be a light in this world. So, Lisa, I'm really excited to have you on here. Thank you so much for your time, your generosity, for really sharing a little bit about your insight and your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting, really.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm really excited for this interview specifically because this is a very unique topic that I haven't touched on a lot during the summit. The topic of healing, really getting in touch back to who we really are, is something that I feel like a lot of young people today might not be very aware that is important or is something that we need in order to really move forward with more clarity, more joy. So why don't you just start off by telling us like exactly what it is that you do now for people, the type of work that you do?
Oh, thank you. Well, your timing is amazing, really, because most of the people who come to me and my clients are older.
Mm.
And I think it was 2 weeks ago, I went back to my university, which was Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, and I graduated 30 years ago. So it was so incredible for me to be back on a college campus. And I couldn't believe 30 years have passed. I mean, that was so mind trippy to me. Like, I graduated in 1991, which is probably before a lot of people watching this video were even born. And we didn't have internet back then. I didn't have cell phone. It was a totally different time.
Mhm.
And I think about where my life has gone since then and the things I wish I knew, and especially how the world has changed. So I graduated. I have 2 degrees. I have one degree in hotel restaurant management, and I realized very quickly I wasn't going to use that one. So I went straight back to school. I went to Florida Atlantic University, got a degree in journalism and communications. And I just had this idea that I was going to change the world through writing, that I was going to really be an inspiration in this world. And when I graduated, I just realized that journalism, the way the world has it set up, is not for me. I mean, they really tell you what to write about. So I didn't know what to do. I was really going through what you were expressing a few minutes ago, this feeling of like, you just get your degree, you could
Mhm.
do anything, and now what? And I ended up moving to New York and I got a job in publishing. I worked there for 10 years and I started at the bottom, and just from hard work and just kind of really connecting with people, I went up the ladder as far as one can go in publishing.
Mhm.
And I realized, is this my life, really? Like, I had everything the world tells you one should have for success. I had money, I had the great apartment, I was traveling the world, um, and I was still in my 20s.
Wow.
So I was just like, okay, but now what? Like, it's, you think money's going to make you happy, or you think this amazing job is going to define you maybe, or give you success, and I was miserable. So I really was always thinking, I have to keep working really hard or this is just going to go away. And so at that time, I drank. I drank a lot. Nobody knew. I just was like, I'm so overwhelmed and so stressed from keeping up this image. And in this moment, I didn't have any religion, none of that. I had no background in Jesus, no interest whatsoever. But I had read some self-help books and some spirituality books, this idea that what you think you see outside of you is actually coming from your thoughts. And it just blew my mind the first time I read it. I read it from Wayne Dyer when I was 20. And I've always been someone who has to experiment with the idea. I won't just take something at face value and think, oh, that's true. And I started experimenting with it. I started experimenting with the law of manifestation, the law of attraction, and I saw, oh, it works. It really can get whatever you want if you really line up your energy with that. And I really realized that's not it either, because I just thought, I'm still not happy. Like, what is this? And I ended up just in a total moment of, I don't know what to do. I have tried everything on the worldly level to be happy, to be successful. And I was tired mostly. I didn't want to drink. I tried quitting and couldn't quit. And I just called out to God. It was July 4th, 2000. I was in my living room in Park Slope, Brooklyn. And I just was like, God, if you're there, I just want to work for you. I didn't even believe in him. And 6 days later, I lost that job. And I was like the office darling. I'd been there for 10 years and they were just, basically chopping off top salaries. So I just was like a name on a list. And I lost my job July 10th, 2000. And it was this total moment of like, okay, now what? And I think that's where a lot of the people probably watching this are right now. Only you don't have to go through everything that I went through to kind of test that out. And like really what I've discovered since then, I ended up moving to this spiritual community in Wisconsin. I lived there for 10 years. And when I got out of that, I had no money, no job. And I started to really begin to experiment again with these laws. And for me, the ones that I'm most interested in are the laws of healing. I train people how to develop their ability to heal, because healing's not miraculous, it's not mysterious, it's an ability. And this is like one of the things as I was coming on this call, I was really thinking about someone who's in a place of like, I don't know what to do with my life. My experience is that whatever makes you happy is your gift. Like whatever keeps coming to you as the thing you just love to do, you would do it if no one paid you to do it. It's like a hobby. And all the free time you have, it's what you want to do. I have all these books behind me. I actually just got rid of a ton. I just took a ton to Goodwill, but they're all on healing. They're all on transformation. That's my love. And I just decided to start pursuing it. Like to really start from where I was, no money, no job, and to just take a step forward. Don't wait anymore for somebody to give me permission, but to really get clear, what would I like to do? And then take a step. And I have a huge interest in creating businesses. I actually am an affiliate for something called B School. It's with Marie Forleo. And it's to help people create a business and life they love. And so I work with people once a year in March for creating a business. And probably the number one thing I see is frustration that maybe things aren't moving fast enough. And the other thing that's happening right now in the world, that we see so many people online looking like instant successes. We
Yeah.
see these Instagram stars and YouTube stars and Facebook ads and all these stories of how I made $1 million, how I made multi-million dollars, how I have, multi-million dollar companies on multiple revenue streams. And so people get the wrong idea that you can just put up a website, take out a few Facebook ads, write a story ad, and you're in business. And I work with a lot of people on the business side, which I love. I love doing that. And my number one thing I tell people is like, you have to love what you're doing. It has to be I love the title. I love your work, Miko, so much
Oh,
because it's college to calling.
yeah.
That word calling is so important because if it's not a calling and you're just doing it for money, it
Mm-hmm.
will fail.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you this. This is a really good transitional point, Lisa. And thank you so much for sharing about your story. So, I feel like a lot of people, including myself, just 2 years ago when I first came out of college, like I always knew that I should be doing work that I love and things that I enjoy. But I feel like a lot of us get to the point where we don't even know what we love doing anymore because we've been following the path of others, really society telling us we need to do this, do that, growing up a whole entire lifetime. And by the time we get out of college, we don't even have that connection to what we love anymore. So like, how do we get back in touch with that? Like our desires, our passion. What do you suggest us go about doing that?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I really think everyone can really look at what they love to do. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it really is that simple. And so often we think instead like what would make money? And that's just such a bad question because this is our life. Like I almost feel like I've had chapters in my life. I had high school, then college, then New York, then Wisconsin when I was in the spiritual community. Now I live back in Maine. Um, and it feels like I've had these chapters and I'm 51 now. So I've had a lot of time since college to really see that life is about living. It really is. Like it really is about, I don't just want to work. I don't want to just make money. Yes, I love having money, but I want to really be vibrantly alive and just do these amazing things. And so for me, I had to get clarity. I mean, I think clarity is an important word,
Mm-hmm.
college to calling to clarity, or
Mm-hmm.
college to clarity to calling. It's get clear on what you love to do. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love cooking. I love it. That's why I went to my first school. I love being in the kitchen. And I love being outside. I love being with people. So I think a good place to start is to make a list
Mm-hmm.
of really what you love to do. And everyone's different. Every single, a lot of people don't like being with people. I love it. A lot of people maybe like being in nature. They like playing a musical instrument. They like staying up late. I don't. So I think to really find out what it is that makes your heart sing.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you do if you never got paid for it? Like, this is your life and you're going to be doing it every day. What is it? And then from there, you'll know. I mean, and I think if people don't know, you can even go back to your childhood and really look, what did I like doing back then before my head got all muddled with what the world says I should do?
Mm-hmm.
And then again, it's, to me, it's something that just comes naturally to you. It's not work. um that to me is how you find out what you're here to do.
Yeah, and I do believe that like the more we open up to that awareness, the more clarity it will start to show up along the way. So Lisa, why don't you tell us more about like what that process and the journey was like when you decided that you were going to pursue your interest, your passion in healing, and how did that end up becoming a career path for you? Like I know obviously it didn't happen overnight. It was a journey, it was a process. But I feel like a lot of times when we are pursuing our interest, our passion, it can be very abstract, very like intangible, this thing out there. So like what's like the tangible steps that you personally taken to build this successful career that you have now, not only healing yourself, but helping others do these amazing work?
Yeah. I think that it can be also be important to write down the things you don't want to do. So for me, it was interesting. I left the spiritual community in 2010, I think, and I moved back here and I had no money, as in zero. Couldn't put gas in my car sometimes because I had already decided 10 years earlier when I left New York that my life was about being happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that at the time, I just didn't even care about money. I just was like, I just want to be vibrantly alive. And I just had a great 10 years in Wisconsin. And then when I came back to New Hampshire and Maine, I was like, all right, it's a new chapter. And now I really want to look at what this money block is that I have. And I think having money would be amazing fun. So I really changed my thinking around it. And I made a list. And at first I was actually going to go back and get a job as a waitress. I mean, I wasn't doing any of the work I'm doing now. And my husband was like, no, you're not going to be a waitress, because he knows me.
Yeah.
He knows how I am. And this is where what I think what happens is, because of fear, we take the safe route. That's why I think it's important to really look at what you love and what you don't really want to do. I really did not want to go back into working for someone else. I'd already done it. I didn't like waking up with an alarm. I want to wake up whenever I wake up. That was important to me. I wanted my time to be my time. And so I already had an idea that I didn't want to work in a regular, hourly job. And I actually decided at the time, the first thing I did was become a Zumba instructor. So I was like, okay, I'm going to become a Zumba instructor. I got trained to teach classes.
Yeah.
And I thought, yep, that's what I'm doing, that my time will be my own. And hopefully it makes money. Well, it made no money. People came to the classes, but I was making no money with those classes. And again, to me, it's a process. I think you have to really be gentle with yourself as you're getting clear on what your life is about. You have to be willing to take risks. You have to move out of your comfort zone. It's all there is to it. Everyone has to be willing to do something they're uncomfortable with. And what I find as I talk with so many different people think if it's uncomfortable, it must not be their thing. But I think whenever you're in a growth period, you have to, it's like the birthing pains, I guess, where you have to say, okay, I'm going to put myself out there. And I think one of the biggest gifts that I've learned, or the lessons that I've learned, is to be willing to make mistakes and be willing to make them in public. So seriously, because what we see online right now is everyone looks so polished and perfect, right? Everyone, you see YouTube videos and you see these online courses, it looks like they've got tons of money. And people get the wrong idea. They think, oh, I need a website person. I need this. I need that. I need a new wardrobe. I need a new look. And that's just the ego and the fear talking to keep us from just stepping forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. Like, I had this idea. I actually had already created a course years earlier. It was a coaching program, and I I'd already scrapped it. Like, I'd already had the idea. I don't really want to work one-on-one. So that was another thing. You see, that's part of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted to reach a lot of people. And what was happening when I did the one-on-one coaching, and for some people it's perfect. For me, I was attracting people from around the world. I could only work physically with 15 people at a time because I was doing 1 hour coaching with every single person. And it was from around the world. So I had to really work with their schedules
Mm-hmm.
for when I could call them.
Yeah.
And I think I did I think I did 3 runs of that. I did 40-day coaching
Mm-hmm.
with 6 hourly, weekly Skype calls. And you quickly, when you're really staying present with your experience, you know this isn't it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to fulfill my commitments, finish out what I agreed to do with these clients. And then I ended it. I said, no more one-on-one coaching. So then it was like, okay, what do I want to do? I would like this message to reach a really lot of people. And I got the idea to offer the online program as just something that anybody could take. And then I got the idea that it was going to be absolutely free. So my husband and we talked about it, and he knows me. He knows if an idea comes, trust in it. And we had created this nonprofit organization called the Teachers of God Foundation, and we decided that would be our first product, and it would be free. And it continues to be free this day. Like 50,000 people have taken it around the world. I get messages every day from people who say it's changed my life. And it's the kind of program that some people charge thousands of dollars for. I mean, it's a full program.
Mm-hmm.
And so our accountant at the time was like, well, how are you going to make money? I was like, I don't know, but this is what's coming to me as what I feel excited to do. And it's just one step in front of the other. And
Mm-hmm.
in the early days, just people were so grateful they would send us donations. So we had, in the early days of the Teachers of God Foundation, it was funded entirely by donation. And then since then, we've created some other paid programs, and then I've created my own paid programs. But it really is, for me, everyone has to really start thinking with the bigger picture, like not
Mm-hmm.
just like, how can I make $10,000 today or $1 million? It really has to be, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? And just, I know everybody wants just instant success, and I know maybe some people experience it. I don't know anything about that. It really is like, be gentle with yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like with the culture nowadays, like that instant success is even more something that we all crave for. But, obviously at times were not always smooth sailing. There were difficult times on this journey of yours, like for example, when you had no money, right? So like, how did you kept going when things were so difficult? Did you ever had moments when you felt like you wanted to give up?
Mhm.
And so like, what was that? What did you depend on for strength and kept going?
That is such a good question. I think what's happening right now in the world is major overwhelm, because many people have online businesses, and I think that they're experiencing this feeling they have to be online all the time, or they have to be on all the time, and every moment is like an Instagram idea, right? Everyone's looking for like the next inspiring video that they can post. And for me, it that was really the breaking point for me, is when I felt like I can't keep living this way. And when I had no money, like, that never really felt like a problem to me. I don't know why. Like, it was not really something that was, I had already had, through my training with A Course in Miracles, a feeling of coming back to my center and trusting in the unfolding of things. So I guess my suggestion would be for people to get a copy of A Course in Miracles. It gives such a good, solid foundation for staying centered when the world seems to be flying around you, or when things don't go the way you would like them to go, which, let's be honest, is never, right? Nothing ever goes the way we think it should go.
Yeah.
And I kept coming back to this place of like, okay, everything's unfolding perfectly. And I look at everything as a lesson. So that's just my training and my practice of, when I had no money, I just was like, all right, there must be a block in my thinking that's blocking money and abundance from coming to me. And long time ago, through my spiritual practice and training, I stopped blaming outside circumstances. And I don't blame myself either. So I stopped with complaining and criticizing. I stopped with wishing things were different. And my training is, okay, if I have no money, it must be a block in my mind, and blocks are easy to remove. Once I can locate the block, then I can begin to do something. So there's always been a sense of excitement in me, or a sense of curiosity of, okay, let's be about it. Let's do this work then. And for me, I saw, in the case with no money, is I was terribly afraid of putting myself out there. And I had a lot of beliefs around money. I come from a background where we didn't have a lot growing up. And, I heard things like money doesn't grow on trees. I made 50 cents a week allowance, and I had to work really hard to get it. Like, I had to make my bed every day. I had to do dishes with my sisters every day to get 50 cents. And so I had a belief system that you have to work hard to get money. So when I saw that as the belief that had to be undone, I started to change, like, okay, the one I used, and I did create this document that during about that time. It's a 3-step method for overflowing abundance, of what I did to see the belief and change it, like switch it around. I started to say to myself, money comes from all directions and money falls from the sky. And I started living in gratitude for what I did have. So what was happening up to that point was I kept thinking, I don't have enough. And I have no money. That was like a record in my head. I have no money. I have no money. I have no money. I have no money. And I had to stop saying that. And then I had to stop thinking it. So I had to start really, even if I had a quarter, let's say, or a dollar, I would give thanks for the dollar. I would say, okay, yeah, I guess I do have some money. I have a dollar, or I have a dime. Like, whatever I had, I would give thanks for it. And then I would be on alert for all the abundance that actually was flowing to me that I wasn't seeing because I was so stuck in the story. And money did start coming literally out of the sky. Like, somebody sent me a $10,000 check.
Really?
I know, out of nowhere. This woman who'd read my book, Gorgeous for God, years earlier. And she lived in Florida. I didn't know her. And she had such gratitude for that book. It got her through the death of her mother. And then they sold her mother's house after her mom passed. And she sent me $10,000 of the money she got from the house. And that's how Bill and I, my husband, started the Teachers of God Foundation.
Wow.
But it was during that there was a 5-week period when I decided I'm going to live for 5 weeks as if I am the richest, happiest person on the planet. And I had very, very little money and no job. I was working as a Zumba instructor. I think I would get like $25 a week in a donation
Mhm.
box.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not kidding. I really had very, very little money. And I really was just thinking, wow, I'm totally in charge of the way I feel. The world and my money in my bank does not tell me how I feel. I tell me how I feel. I'm in charge. I'm the boss. I'm the boss of my emotions. And then I just started showing up differently. I started creating the program. I started connecting with people again. I started giving money. I started tithing. I just was like, if I'm the richest, happiest person on the planet, I give my money away. And
Mhm.
and you have to do it wherever you are, like to really trip that belief system and dissolve it. And that's just the practice that I live. It's the practice I teach. Like, I'm somebody who's, I feel like I'm the one, and this is from high school even, who's like, oh, we should totally go check that out. Like, let's go live the adventure. And I always had a group of people with me, like, because of my certainty. I didn't know what we were going to find, but
Mhm.
I was always like, let's go. And I'd have a group with me going like, oh, good idea. And that's what I feel my work is now, of like, let's explore these invisible realms. We keep hearing about them in self-help books, right?
Mhm.
But are we actually exploring these invisible realms? And that's my work. My work is to say, I'm going to dedicate my life to seeing how the laws of healing work, seeing how these laws of abundance work, and no longer using my physical senses to instruct me of how things work.
Oh, I love this so much, Lisa. And I feel like this new way of thinking is a completely new paradigm that so many of our young people this might be the first time they actually are aware of this. But it's exciting when we can know that there is something invisible beyond our physical senses that is having a major role in everything that shows up in our life. That gets exciting. Like that personally also changed everything for me when I discovered the laws of the universe. And knowing you have that power is very, very, it's fun. And that the way that you were explaining how just shifting your mindset, your beliefs around money, it's a completely different energy that you're sending off when you start to feel like you're the happiest, richest person on the planet. And
Yeah.
I love this so much because I feel like also a lot of us, me including, when we go to college, all our whole life, we are seeking like all these external success ways to get money. We
Mhm.
are constantly chasing money, but now I feel like it's a complete shift. It's about attracting that into your life. So, like, can you explain a little bit more in terms of like how our beliefs around money has anything to do with the actual dollar amount flowing in? How does that work?
Well, it's a little bit of a paradox, because I think you have to stop thinking about the dollar. Like, you have to stop thinking about the results. And of course, everybody wants the results. But I feel like for everyone to really get into a feeling right now, is everyone has this ability. We have the ability to shift out of our picture of ourselves as a sick person, as suffering, in pain, in doubt, in confusion, in shame and blame, and like all the things that people think are normal for humans. We just think, oh, this is the human condition, and I'm just going through whatever I'm going through. Until you start meeting other people who are really in control now of their minds. like they've mastered it. And when you see one person do it, you realize it must be possible for me then. And that's what happened, is where I realized, oh, it doesn't matter how many dollars are in my bank account. If I'm the richest, happiest person on the planet, how do I wake up in the morning? What are my thoughts like? How am I showing up? It's a totally different picture. And like you said, it's a totally different energy field.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know how it works, really. Like, I don't know how. I just know that it does.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start living in gratitude, you live in joy. And this is why I love A Course in Miracles, because it gives you steps where you start where you are, as depressed, angry, judgmental on yourself, maybe attacking yourself, all the self-sabotage things we all do. You start wherever you are, and it undoes your thought system step by step. There's like lessons, workbook lessons, because what a lot of people have tried to do, and it doesn't work, is maybe they'll hear me or read a book and they'll think, oh, I just have to be happy. It's really too much of a jump. You can't go from depressed to happy, because it's just like you're faking it. You're not, the thought system is still there. You have to deal with that thought system of fear and anger and judgment and blame and guilt. It has to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so by making a decision like, all right, I'm done with this picture, that's really a firm beginning. And then that thought system starts to, it really does start to dissolve. And then the light that you are starts to come through. And then you really are authentically happy. But when people try to be happy, it doesn't work. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. You have to deal with the wound. You have to really deal with that thought system. And again, it's the same thing. It doesn't happen overnight. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's something that you just say, all right, I wish I had known when I was in my 20s about this work, but I didn't learn about it until later. And
So,
good.
Lisa, how would you recommend someone to get started on this journey of really overcoming those old stories that we tell ourselves, all these beliefs that don't serve us? What can our listeners do starting today? Like, what action steps can they take?
Well, I think the most powerful one, I don't know if I have the book, is to get a copy of A Course in Miracles. Oh, here it is. This would be the number one thing I would tell people, is to get a copy of this book.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to take a journey into the unknown, you really need a guide. Like you want someone to take you up the mountain, right? You want somebody to take you where they've already been. And the reason I love A Course in Miracles is because it is self-study, and it takes one starting right where you are. It doesn't ask you to change. It starts wherever somebody is, in confusion, anger, judgment, doubt, blame, whatever it is. And then it takes you to the next lesson, the next day, the next lesson, the next day, the next lesson. So you could, in 2020, finish all the lessons. You could say, okay, 2020 is my year for mind training. I'm going to train my mind to live in the truth and to know the truth and to be the light that I am. That's the first step that I would suggest. It's $40, the best money anybody will ever spend ever. Because what people do is they keep looking to other teachers, and they get little bits and pieces here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And you want the whole system, right? Like I did. Like I was like, all right, I can't maintain a solid foundation. I keep falling back into drinking, self-doubt, confusion. And so I needed to have a really solid foundation. And I got it through A Course in Miracles. That's just how it worked for me. And again, I think making a decision is an important part of it, where you have a moment when you really are like, I'm done with this life. I'm done with this picture of myself as a sick, suffering, frail, weak. I loved what you said earlier, Miko, about when you access this presence, it's powerful. And that's that decision to actually find out what that presence and power is and just start living it.
Yeah, and I think it's so exciting that this interview is going to be going out like towards the end of this month, and it's like the perfect time for people to make a decision that this is it. And at the end of the day, it all starts with one decision, and you just keep going. Take the next step, take the next step. So, Lisa, to wrap up this interview, I'm having so much fun with you,
I know,
but to honor your time, I just have a last question to wrap this interview up. So I want to ask you now, knowing everything that you know, all the amazing work that you do now, if only you can go back in time and talk to Lisa when she was in her early 20s, when she might be chasing after different things for happiness and success, what would you say to her now, knowing everything that you know?
That is such a good question. It was so fun for me to be at FAU a couple weeks ago because I was in the bookstore and I felt like I was back there again.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, yeah, what would I tell that girl? And to me, it really would be just relax. And just, this is your life. Like, I've only just recently in the last couple years started taking long holidays.
Mm-hmm.
Like I the last couple of years, I've gone with a group of friends to walk the Camino in Spain and Portugal. We go for 3 weeks. We walk 150 miles with just, backpacks. And I was like, wow, how come I didn't do this earlier? Why did I wait? And it's not like you need money to go do the things you really want to do. But that would be the advice. My advice is to just, whatever you want to do, you should really go do it. Like, why did I wait to, like, I hire a lot of mentors right now. I love being inspired. I love upping my game. I just love it. I love learning. I love reading. And I always thought, I don't have the money to hire a coach. I don't have the money to take that class I really want to take. And what I do now is I say, this is my life. Why am I saying no to something I really want to do? I'm going to figure it out. Like, if I want to take that class and it's $5,000 and I don't have $5,000, what can I do to figure it out? In every single case, I have figured it out. And for me, like, I made a decision years ago. I'm going to be a person who pays my bills on time. And that became like, all right, I'm going to figure that one out. So that's what my advice would be: really relax, and whatever you want to do, go do it. Don't wait.
Wow, that was an amazing way to end this interview. I love that you said, why would you say no to the things that you really want to do? Just make a decision first and then you'll find a way. But that's so powerful. Lisa, I just want to take some time to acknowledge you for the amazing work that you're doing for people out there. But I know that all started with you connecting back to who you are first, really getting to know Lisa, who Lisa is, and then you can really bring that light out to other people. And I hope that this summit, this interview is also doing something similar to people listening, and hopefully it really gave them some inspiration, some that spark to as a catalyst for people to go and pursue what it is that they truly love doing, and then bring their light into the lives of other people. So thank you for your time. And I know that for our listeners listening, also thank you so much for tuning in. Because you're here, I know Lisa has prepared something very special for you guys. So Lisa, if you want to talk about your free gift, that would be amazing.
Yeah, what I put together was that time during 2012 when I had no money, I did a 5-week experiment of living as the happiest, richest person on the planet. And so I created this ask and receive worksheet. It's a 3-step method to overflowing abundance, living a life you love. And so I give the 3 steps, and I also share my story of those 5 weeks of what I did. And it's all based on this, the word ask, A-S-K, ask, seek, and knock. And it really is just explains everything. That it's like 13-page thing with questions and a worksheet and my story.
Awesome. Yay. Yeah, that is super powerful. I know I'm going to get my hands on that too myself. So where you can access that will be inside the same email that this interview that you access on. So just go back to the same email and make sure you click on the link. It's at the PS section of the email. And Lisa, also, where can our listeners find you online? I know that they want to continue to follow you, learn from you. So where can they find you?
Yeah, I have a website. It's lisanatoli.com, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm just new to Instagram. So, but that can all be found at my website, lisanatoli.com.
Awesome. Great. So thank you again. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I believe this will be the last interview of this summit. So thank you so much everyone for listening, and hopefully you got something very powerful and valuable from this summit. So talk to you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.